Hey Justin, welcome. Thanks for coming on air with us. I was just wondering, I know you've been here 100 times, but how's the transition been in New York so far?
It's been great. I actually lived here for an off-season a few years back, so I kind of had an understanding of the city. But to be here as a player is pretty cool, man. It's one of those things that you dream about as a kid. To be playing in front of this, in front of this fan base has just been incredible.
I was thinking about last season. The prior two seasons, you have Tommy John, and you have a year like you had last year. I mean, arguably one of the greatest years the starting pitcher's ever had. At some point, was it a little surreal, or was it just confirmation of all the hard work you'd put in?
Kind of a combination of both. I mean, you know how it goes. You put in all this hard work, and you don't really know how it's going to pay off until you go apply it in a game. And the season got off to a good start. So obviously that's you're kind of off to the races at that point, and just trying to maintain what you're doing and keep your mechanics in sync. So I guess on one hand, it was like I did a ton of work, and I was expecting it to pay off because I felt a lot like myself. I didn't have any bad reactions to the surgery or anything, so was hopeful that I was going to pitch like I had left off, and but in the middle of the season, especially towards the end there, you kind of like, wow, that put together a pretty good one.
That's pretty amazing, right? The first time I ever started to watch you pitch a lot, started doing your games, I noticed that you did a lot of things that pitchers that I had grown up with did. They'd get ready, and they were 100% ready for the game, but they would consciously get hitters out with an eye on getting big outs or going deeper in the game, and sometimes upping that velocity like you did in Cincinnati. Was that something you consciously did? Someone taught you, or it was just part of your innate ability?
I think it's just something I learned along the way. For one, I've never been somebody who, right at the beginning of the game, I can throw as hard as I can at the end. It takes me a while. It takes my body a while to get going. I don't know why that is. But when I was younger, I would come out and throwing 96, 97 pretty early. There was a game in Boston after a few years in the league, and we needed a longer start from me. The bullpen was really taxed, and I went out there and pitched really poorly the first 3 innings and threw I think 65 or 70 pitches in 3 innings, and I was like, man, I need to at least try to get through 5 or 6 here. So I completely dialed down my velocity on purpose to try to just get some balls in play, because at this point, I think the game was pretty much out of hand, and I just needed to get innings. It didn't matter. So I actually, in that same game, I threw a changeup harder than I threw a fastball. I threw a fastball at 89 miles an hour, just trying to locate and getting guys out. And the first inning I went out and did that. I forget who was up. I think it was Euclid, maybe Poppy, and I don't know who the last guy was, but I think I had a 5-pitch inning. It was just just kind of putting the ball where I wanted. And so that was kind of a light bulb moment for me, where I said, I think maybe not that slow, but I think I can try to pitch a little bit early in games and save some of those better fastballs for later in the game if things go well, or if things go poorly, I can go to the well then. And so I started trying to apply that, and it just kind of really took off. I mean, I was able to do that really well, and just kind of ran with it.
Feels like a Zach Greinke game now, right? Where he can throw his changeup sometimes harder than his fastball.
Yeah, the game has changed a lot, as you know. I mean, the balls are flying out of the yard at a faster rate than ever has before. I've kind of reverted back a little bit to the older way, where in today's game you can't really pitch as much as you used to be able to. You can't just say, here's your fastball, 2-0 down and away. Go ahead and take your base hit to right field or left field, and those guys are, if they lift it, even if it's opposite field, if they lift it at the right exit velocity, it's a home run. So now you got to miss bats in almost every single count. So it's a little different now.
When did you realize, or go back, who was telling you, or did you just see it with your eyes, that hitters' approach to the game was different, hitters' approach to you, and what they were really trying to do up there, as opposed to put the ball in play? Yeah. Everyone was really trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. I guess, if anybody plays as long as I have, the game I'm sure changes a lot. But I feel like this has been one of the most dramatic shifts in baseball in my era in the game, going from back to 2005 and 6, my first couple years. It was the older school of baseball, and then analytics started taking over, and it changed things so quickly. I mean, to your question, I think the analytics started pointing out approaches and guys that were trying to do certain things, and their weaknesses really started to stick out. It wasn't the old school way of like this like dance kind of pitching and trying to find your weaknesses and you're trying to cover them up. It turned into like, I already know yours, you know mine, and if I do my job better than you, I'll probably get you out. So, but I think it's also the pendulum shifting back a little bit. I hope, anyway.
So what do you think? I saw you early in your career, I see you pitch now. I haven't seen much of a change, but are there things you do better today than you did at the beginning of your career?
I mean, I think I definitely understand myself better. I understand what makes me successful. I on the mound and off the mound. I think just a little more refined when I'm like scouting and using analytics to my advantage. Things have changed quite a bit. I mean, I wouldn't change anything about the past. I think the way I used to pitch, which was just kind of like instinctual, just go out there and grip it and rip it.
Yeah.
As a young kid, hair on fire.
Read a bat.
Just like let the game dictate how I pitched. That's how you learn. That's how I learned to get through a lineup 3 or 4 times and get deep into games. And then you kind of add that in with this new analytic approach, and I can go out there with all of the information I want or could ever need. But then when I step foot on the mound, I still have that backdrop of all just my instincts that I accrued over the years.
With so much success in Detroit, you come to that moment where you have to decide if you're going to go to another team. You end up going to Houston, probably one of the greatest moves you can make for your career. The consensus was you went to this highly analytical team and they opened up a box that you had not thought about. Is that true, or was it a combination of hearing stuff that you could use, but also, like always, disregarding stuff that you knew was not right for you?
It actually it goes back a little bit before Houston. There was a year, it was 14 or 15. I think it was more 14. Mm-hmm. The first year of my career that like my body started like I wasn't
responding.
It wasn't. I was getting really sore. I was hurt when I was pitching. It just wasn't right. And after one of these games, things weren't going very well, and I went in and Brad Ausmus asked me about my pitch selection, and I told him, tell me the pitch that you're talking about, and I'll tell you why I threw it and what I saw before and what I saw after. And he was like, okay, well, you're not throwing 100 anymore like you used to, so I think you need to do a little more scouting, and here's some of the things I used to look at as a catcher. Uh-huh. And that was the first time where I was like introduced to some numbers that, or I needed introduction to some numbers that could help me. So obviously Detroit being a bit behind back then analytically, but I kind of got my foot in the door of looking at some analytic stuff. And then the trade to Houston happens, and go from probably one of the worst analytic teams at the time, and to the best. And it was really quite simplistic. They sat me down and they said, okay, here's your 2-seam fastball, here's your 4-seam fastball. Your 4-seam is one of the best in baseball. Your 2-seam is quite average, and you're just doing a favor to the hitter. And I'm like, okay.
That's a hard lesson to hear, isn't it?
It really was quite easy for me, because I always just assumed like 2 seams to arm side, 4 seams to glove side. But I didn't know, nobody had ever told me, and this is the advantage of analytics, nobody told me that my fastball, my 4-seam was so elite, like the best in baseball. No, I never knew that. So if you have a pitch that's the best or one of the best in the game, just throw that more.
Yeah.
The whole point of analytics for me as a pitcher, besides some of the other, spin metrics and all that stuff, is like, don't do favors to the hitter. Make them get out of their game plan. Don't throw them a pitch that is average. My 2-seam, even though it had good velocity, had an average movement profile. It helped them square the ball up. So that was pretty much, the first meeting, and then just was like, okay, light bulb, easy. I'll stop throwing 2-seams. Wow. I've only thrown like 1 or 2 2-seams since that meeting.
That's amazing. Every time I have this conversation, I get extremely jealous, to tell you the truth.
It's helpful, yeah.
Yeah, let me make it easy here for a couple of questions. Quick hitters. I'll mention a name. You tell me what they mean to you. Jimmy Leland.
Man, he's the best. He obviously my first manager was there for a long time, and he seems funny to say now, took a leap of faith on me as a rookie, and really decided to take me on as a young kid who had good stuff, but really didn't know much about baseball. And I'm so thankful for him, and we keep in touch all the time. I love Jim.
Miguel Cabrera.
The best. I mean, just those like that decade in Detroit when we were together. He was just unbelievable.
Money. Your teammate again, Max Scherzer.
Ultimate competitor. I love watching Max compete. I'm thankful to be back on a team with him and get to, we kind of went our separate ways and have built a career of our own. And I'm really happy to be back here with him and see him work and see what he's learned since we knew each other way back when.
Shohei Ohtani.
A freak. So after Tommy John, so I'd missed almost 2 full years basically. And the rules changed in that time frame where you could hit and pitch, and they wouldn't have to remove the DH.
That's right.
They basically the Shohei Ohtani,
Ohtani rule. Yeah.
So when I came back, opening day was in Anaheim, and that was the first time I watched him go out and throw 100 in the first inning. The stadium's going nuts, and then he literally walks off the mound, goes right to the on-deck circle. He's leading off the game, and he's putting on his BGs and walks up there to hit, and the stadium's going nuts again. I'm like, this is just absolutely incredible. I get chill bumps, man. This is just insane.
It's unprecedented when you had the surgery at 39 years old, 38 years old. And I know that your family has become a big part of what you do off the field, certainly, but also how you feel after a game off the field as well. But how big of a part did they play as far as those lonely times when you're grinding and you don't know if you're going to see the end of the rainbow?
It's just such a blessing. I mean, this game is really difficult. You have years like last year where everything goes great, and then you have years that not everything's perfect. You're not going to have a perfect year every year, but as you know, like you said, sometimes when it's not going great, you're just kind of in the grinder and mentally just kind of spinning and always thinking about how to get out of it. I have a hard time sleeping, and it's just like you're recounting everything, and then I wake up the next day and you wake up and immediately your brain is thinking about it again. And then I walk out and my daughter's there and runs and hugs me. And it's just, it really helps you, I think, separate what happens here and home life. And I think it's a huge thing that you need to be able to do because, you can't be on like this all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a big help. So finally, I wanted to ask you one question. I think people that are in the middle of a career like yours don't want to talk about after the career's done and all the things that people assume, Hall of Fame and all of that stuff about your legacy. But more importantly, what do you want your teammates to say about you when it's all done and you've retired and someone asks them about Justin Verlander? What did he mean to you?
I mean, I think I want to be somebody who leads by example. I want to be somebody who does things the right way, is helpful to my teammates, and more importantly, can be a leader. Not necessarily a leader of the team. To me, that's usually a position player or starting pitchers. We're one every 5 days. But somebody who every person I played with would say, we want that guy on the mound any day, all day. And, bullpen, save the bullpen, and just all the little things that we can do as starting pitchers to help the team. And then on the other 4 days, somebody that my teammates can say they enjoyed being around and, liked having on their team.
Well, I'm sure that's 100%. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
Have a great year and great health.
Appreciate it, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you.